Well, good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's go ahead and get week 11 started with Mailbag Monday, but be sure to stay tuned for some exciting news after the mailbag. Now, Sarah V. in Kansas asks a very interesting question, and I'm really looking forward to diving into the texts to find the answer, or, well, more accurately, to find the speculative and likely answers, plural. Sarah asks, Isildur said that wearing the ring hurt. Do we know why that would be? It doesn't seem to cause Bilbo or Frodo pain, although he does also feel it to be a burden like they do. All right, Sarah, let's take a look. As always, we start with the text. In this case, the words of Isildur that Gandalf read at the Council of Elrond. It was hot when I first took it, hot as a gleed, more on that soon, and my hand was scorched, so that I doubt if ever again I shall be free of the pain of it. The ring misseth, maybe, the heat of Sauron's hand, which was black and yet burned like fire, and so Gil-galad was destroyed. And maybe were the gold made hot again, the writing would be refreshed. It is precious to me, though I buy it with a great pain. Okay, so we know that it was so hot that it burned Isildur's flesh to pick it up, and it gave him a lasting pain, like a second or third degree burn. We're talking nerve damage, perhaps, the kind of thing you'd expect from a severe actual burn, not something that's a magical injury, but an actual physical injury. And we also learn about Sauron's hand. It burned like fire, and so much so that it was the cause of death of the High King of the Noldor, Gil-galad. So we're talking some pretty hot fire. Now, let's confirm that with another text, this time from Unfinished Tales and the Disaster of the Gladden Fields. Now, I've read from this before on a very early Third Age Thursday, but I was focusing on Isildur's redemption. So instead, let's take a look at it through this lens. After Isildur and his men defeated the first concerted attack of the orcs, they kept moving, hoping that they would give way, that is to say that the orcs would give way after their defeat. Now, unfortunately, Isildur was wrong. Now, later on, as it becomes clear that he and his men are losing the battle, his son comes to him. Elendor went to his father, who was standing dark and alone as if lost in thought. Atarinya, he said, what of the power that would cow these foul creatures and command them to obey you? Is it then of no avail? Alas, it is not, Senya. I cannot use it. I dread the pain of touching it, and I have not yet found the strength to bend it to my will. It needs one greater than I know now myself to be. My pride has fallen. It should go to the keepers of the three. Now, later, setting aside all of his wonderful redemption story, when the battle has clearly turned against him, his son approaches him again. My king, said Elendor, Cirion is dead, and Aratan is dying. Your last counselor must advise, nay, command you, as you commanded Oktar. Go, take your burden, and at all costs bring it to the keepers, even at the cost of abandoning your men and me. King's son, said Isildur, I knew that I must do so, but I feared the pain. Nor could I go without your leave. Forgive me, and my pride that has brought you to this doom. Elendor kissed him. Go now, he said. Isildur turned west, and drawing up the ring that hung in a wallet from a fine chain about his neck, he set it upon his finger with a cry of pain, and was never seen again by any eye upon Middle-earth. But the Elendilmir of the west could not be quenched, and suddenly it blazed forth red and wrathful as a burning star. Men and orcs gave way in fear, and Isildur, drawing a hood over his head, vanished into the night. Now, the theme of pain continues. That's the theme of pain, not the king of pain. It is told that he was in great pain and anguish of heart, and then after the ring slipped off, at first so overwhelming was his sense of loss that he struggled no more and would have sunk and drowned, but swift as it had come, the mood passed, the pain had left him. A great burden had been taken away. So not only did Isildur dread the potential pain, he clearly had painful memories connected to obtaining the ring in the first place, but he actually was dreading what would become actual, honest-to-goodness pain, great pain, enough to make him cry out. But we read nothing suggesting that Bilbo or Frodo suffered anything along those same lines upon their possession or use of the ring. Now, why not? Why does the ring cause great burning to Isildur, but no burning whatsoever to Frodo or Bilbo? Well, first, it is clear that Isildur suffered an actual physical injury at the time he took possession of the ring. The flesh on his hand was burned, quite severely, one might imagine, and we know that burn victims often experience pain for months or even years after a severe burn. That alone could explain it. But it appears that Isildur isn't suffering pain until and unless he puts the ring back on. So there's also an element of the power of the ring still at work here, and not merely the physical injury. Now, this shouldn't come as much of a surprise given the nature of evil at work in the ring. Now, talking about physical pain, I just mentioned Frodo not suffering burning pain upon the use of the ring, but he very much did suffer physical pain as a result of an injury that he bore. I want to take us to the stairs of Cirith Ungol as the Witch King leads his forces out of Minas Morgul and near where Frodo, Sam, and Gollum were hiding. And that's when we read, "Here, yes, here indeed was the haggard king whose cold hand had smitten down the ring-bearer with his deadly knife. The old wound throbbed with pain, and a great chill spread towards Frodo's heart." So we know that Frodo felt the effects of both that wound and Shelob's sting long after the destruction of the ring. In fact, those two physical wounds were at least part of the reason why he left the Shire for the Undying Lands when he did. So when it comes to Sarah's question, I think we're looking at a combination of factors here. For Isildur, he suffered a physical injury that sort of surged with pain whenever the cause of that injury was active, similar to Frodo and the memory of the stab wound from the Witch King. Now, the second thing I think we need to consider here is that the power of Sauron in the ring itself was likely still much, much, much fresher. Remember, the stuff that we just talked about at the disaster of the Gladden Fields was only 2 years after Sauron's defeat, whereas Bilbo acquired the ring more than 2,900 years later. A couple of millennia at the bottom of a river should cool it off. And the thing is, there is precedent in the text, like I said, for the idea that a physical injury can trigger that sensation of pain even when the actual cause of that pain, the source of that pain, is no longer physically present. For Bilbo and Frodo, the ring caused them no physical injury in the first place for it to enhance later on. And the power of Sauron in the ring had more likely lessened. Certainly it wasn't physically hot anymore the way it was when Isildur originally took possession. And there we go. Now, before I wrap up, I am excited to announce that the Patreon for today's Tolkien Times is going to launch this Saturday, August 12th. Now, when you support the show there, you're going to get all sorts of good stuff, depending on what tier you choose. You can get an ad-free feed for the show. You can join a monthly hangout that's just for today's Tolkien Times patrons. You'll get priority for choosing readings and mailbag questions, and even a patron-exclusive bonus weekly episode, not to mention free merch. So go to tolkientimes.com/Patreon right now to learn more and be ready to sign up. Now, here's the thing. Eventually, it will be patreon.com/TolkienTimes. That site's not going to be live till the 12th. So for now, go to tolkientimes.com/Patreon to learn more. There will be discounts and a special offer for folks who sign up during the next few weeks. But folks, for now, that wraps it up for Mailbag Monday. If you have a question that you'd like me to answer, please email it to barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com. Let him know it's for today's Tolkien Times, and I'll get to it just as soon as possible. Of course, remember, Mailbag priority will be a benefit of supporting the show. Now, if you're not already listening to the Prancing Pony Podcast, give it a go. More than 300 episodes and 7 million downloads walking our way through the legendarium and answering mailbag questions just like these nearly every episode. And finally, join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Tolkien Tuesday as we learn more about the professor himself. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, follow or subscribe on your podcast apps, and follow @Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.